All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I am definitely playing catch-up today. I mean, I can never cover enough of the Trump shooting and the different people coming out and talking about it and the insane takes and the conspiracy theories, but today we're going to add to the list here. So I'll show you the single dumbest reaction to the Trump shooting. We'll get into that in just a second. Then we'll also discuss Bill Maher's reaction to the Trump shooting. Later on, a CNN host comes out and gives commentary basically saying that the United States is cooked. Democrats completely and utterly waved the white flag. And we have a new slate of polls that are just absolutely devastating for Joe Biden. I mean, catastrophic for Joe Biden. So we'll get to that and more. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time. It costs you absolutely nothing. And a massive thank you to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. You guys really make it work. As you all know, I never talk to any advertisers ever. So you guys help build this show from the ground up with $2 a month or $5 a month or whatever it is. And I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of that. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So here we go, guys. This right here is probably the dumbest reaction I've seen to the Trump shooting. Now, look, let me be clear. Murder is bad. Murder is wrong. It's immoral. It's unethical. Not only is murder bad and wrong, attempted murder is bad and wrong. I'm delivering this take to you from the Duh Factory. That's where I am right now. Okay. But don't say shit like this, bro. Do not turn around and say shit like this. So, Kate Andrews in The Spectator writes this: "Today, we're all MAGA." Okay, all right, let's hear her out. When Ronald Reagan was shot on March 30th, 1981, his wound was not immediately noticed. It wasn't until he started bleeding from the mouth that the car was diverted from the White House to the hospital. The story goes that upon arrival, the president said to the surgeons, "I hope you're Republicans." A doctor is said to have replied, "Today, Mr. President, we're all Republicans." Let's hope this anecdote is never debunked. It's too good a story about Americans who did not hesitate to put their country before their politics that so often plagues it. The attack on Reagan was the last known assassination attempt on a president until a few hours ago. So this was written like literally just after the shooting. Then they go on to explain what happened in the shooting. There's only one appropriate response to such horrors. Today, we are all MAGA, or at least most of us are. American politics has sunk so low into the cesspit of political despair, there will be a rare few who can't bring themselves to say this. Rather than muster up the humor of Reagan or the humanity of the doctors, they won't hesitate to keep pouring petrol onto a nation already ablaze. Those takes won't be received very well. If there's anything left tying America's national fabric together, it's that such instances of violence can't be tolerated. Now, by the way, they say there's a few people who, won't be against the shooting. All I saw is the overwhelming majority of the country, of course, being against it. And then there's like a small percentage of blue MAGA that went all in on like the shooting was faked. It was staged. I see almost nobody. I mean, maybe you can count them on one hand, but almost nobody who's out there like, I am in favor of this. Okay, anyways. So they're wrong. They're already kind of wrong, right? They're already wrong. Trump's biggest fans and biggest critics should not hesitate to come together on this issue. But like, what issue? If the issue is murder is bad, agreed, we're all there. Or we all should be there, right? Some are already leading by example. Former presidential candidate Mitt Romney, a renowned never-Trumper, writes on social media that he is relieved the former president is safe and doing well. Bernie Sanders wishes Trump a speedy recovery. They know full well tomorrow's debates will still play out. Today, there is a moment for national unity and perhaps a moment for change. Americans have become increasingly fearful of political violence, the kind that has played out across the country, from the streets of Manhattan to Portland. Over the past few years, of course, Republicans and Democrats aren't going to start playing nice, but when small shops were boarding up their windows during the midterm elections of 2022, that might have been an indication that political discourse had gone a bit too far. There's going to be a lot of pressure now for Democrats to tone down their rhetoric about Trump as a dictator and a despot. The kind of words people use around the world to justify political uprisings. Critical questions put to the Democrats about what kinds of outcomes they expected when they referred to the former president as an existential threat to the United States. See, this is the shit I can't stand, man. This drives me crazy, and you guys have now heard me make this argument like 7 different times. 2 things are true. Murder is bad. We condemn it. The other thing that's true is the criticisms of Trump are accurate. He is a wannabe dictator. He says, I'm going to be a dictator only on day one. That's what he says. So he is an authoritarian. He is a fascist. He does want to be a despot. He did say suspend or terminate the Constitution. These are things he says. He's indicated, I will not accept the results of the next election if I lose. Lucky for him, it looks like he's not going to lose now, right? But we can't stop saying things that are accurate because of this. We just can't do it. And it's a national gaslighting project now. And by the way, what was Biden's response to this? Cut off all Democratic ads across the board. No more Democratic ads. We're going to suspend them out of civility and decency. And okay, I understand where they're coming from, but you are sort of giving into the gaslighting that now you can't say any, like you can't disagree with Trump now because of what happened. No, I can still disagree with him on 98% of topics, and I do, and I will. And I'll maintain that while also saying murder is bad. Meanwhile, Republicans might stop referring to the current president as a criminal. Election results could be respected. Attempts to imprison political opponents could be wound down. As I wrote for this magazine in the spring, America, once a free and fair nation, is quickly acquiring the habit of prosecuting political opponents. No. He was charged with 91 crimes because he did 91 crimes. In the civil case in New York, he was found liable for business fraud, tax fraud, insurance fraud, all different kinds of fraud. He had to pay out a tremendous amount of money. He was found liable for defamation of E. Jean Carroll over the sexual assault thing. These are things that happened, right? The Jack Smith case, they're gumming up the works and the Republicans are trying to block it. But the fact of the matter is the case on paper is ironclad and rock solid. They have internal communications where they call it what they were doing illegal. They call it a fake elector slate and a fraudulent elector slate. So this is gaslighting. When they say, oh, you know, you're going at prosecuting political opponents. Yeah, because they committed crimes. That's why. By the way, we should prosecute more political opponents. I would have no problem with Joe Biden getting his comeuppance and spending time behind bars over his arming and funding a genocide of Gaza. I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney should be in prison. Stop. This is this idea, like this get out of jail free card that they want to hand out to elites, right? And now, because somebody went too far, they're saying you should stop prosecuting your political opponent, Donald Trump. He's not being prosecuted because he's a political opponent. He's being prosecuted because of the crimes. A Trump win in November has never seemed more likely. Voter frustration with the economy and Biden's debate implosion already had the former president on a fairly straightforward path to victory. But this moment, symbolized by a bleeding Trump standing with his fist in the air, is going to have more of an impact on voters than any debate or attack line ever could. I agree with that. The nation must grapple with this possibility now and prepare for how we'll handle any outcome with civility. Or we can keep going as we have been. But we can no longer feign ignorance to how deadly the consequences are. So in other words, she's like, Trump's going to win, and when he does, be civil. Okay, but Trump's going to win, and he's going to try to jam through a poisonous, toxic cesspool of an agenda, and we need to stop that, right? Don't tell me I can't fight back in the realm of policy because a bad thing happened outside of the realm of policy. That makes no goddamn sense. Zero. So the idea, oh, today we're all MAGA. No, I am not MAGA. I am anti-murder, but I'm also not MAGA, and I never will be MAGA. And if we want to get a little bit more specific about it, the terrible thing that happened does not change the fact that this is Trump's agenda. Now, let's go through it. We'll try to do it quickly, but he wants to seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. He wants to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. By the way, they admitted a lot of innocent people would be kicked out under this scenario. There would be, grandmas and kids. And so when I look at that, yeah, I'm against it. I'm against that. I'm against rounding up people and shipping them out if they didn't really do anything wrong. Am I okay with deporting violent criminals? Sure. But if you do that, you're deporting a tiny percentage, right? They want to do the largest deportation in American history. I'm against that. You can't hit me with, you better be civil, as they do the most uncivil thing in the world and rip grandmas out of the frickin' country that they've lived for years. All right, they continue. Make America, end inflation and make America affordable again. Brilliant. Thank you for that detailed policy proposal of ending inflation. I think the question is, how do you do that? Not, we're going to do that. Okay, but how are you going to do that? Make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. Okay, we already are. Congratulations. We shouldn't be, by the way. I wish we would move towards green and renewable technology and take climate change seriously. We're not doing that, and he's promising to continue to not do that. And I have to be civil about it. I have to not say, hey, iceberg dead ahead, or cliff right ahead, and we're going 100 miles per hour towards it. I'm not allowed to say that because civility. Large tax cuts for workers. By the way, he did tax cuts for the rich the first time. 83% of the benefits went to the rich. And no tax on tips. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, from the same guy who said suspend it, terminate it, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. The freedom of speech thing, well, you're the guy who said we should punish flag burning with up to a year in prison. You're the guy who sued CNN for hundreds of millions of dollars because you didn't like their coverage of you. You're the guy who sued Bill Maher over a joke. You're the guy who said we should open up the libel laws. So you're not really for free speech. And then as a follow-up to that, this platform that Trump had was written before a psycho tried to kill him. So I don't know. Are you maybe rethinking that Second Amendment thing? Should we have no restrictions? Because I'll tell you what, if I owned a gun store and that freak walked in, the one who shot at Trump, on look alone, nah, homie, I'm not selling you a gun. Get the fuck out of here. He looked like every stereotypical mass school shooter that you've ever seen in your entire life. Right? Now, by the way, apparently the gun was his dad's and he stole his own dad's gun. So, I mean, the way you can maybe address that is to have rules like they have in some states where you're required to keep your own firearm locked up, right? So he wouldn't be able to get the firearm. But either way, I genuinely think he might be like, about the Second Amendment thing, right? Like at the RNC, there's rules in the city where you can carry within a certain perimeter of the RNC. Are we sure we want to keep those rules given what just happened? I mean, this might be a time to maybe tweak those rules a little bit and say, no, let's not have firearms and a bunch of psychotic people within, a couple 100 feet of politicians and well-known figures. All right, he says, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. Prevent World War III is hilarious. He already said he wants to give Netanyahu everything he wants. He's called Biden a Palestinian. He said he's too hard on Israel, so he wants to allow Israel to finish the genocide. The idea that he's going to end the fighting in Ukraine is absolute nonsense. He helped arm Ukraine up front. He's not going to be able to end that conflict, and I guarantee you he's going to act almost exactly like Biden and keep arming and funding Ukraine against Russia. And Iron Dome over the U.S., I mean, okay. It's a little silly, but okay, I'll take it. That's fine. I'm fine with it, right? End the weaponization of government against the American people. In other words, stop prosecuting me. Stop the migrant crime epidemic, the one that doesn't exist. Remember, undocumented immigrants and documented immigrants commit crime at a lower rate than native-born Americans. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. Oh, you mean you want to do an infrastructure bill? Like the one that just got passed? That was not under you? Okay. Strengthen and modernize our military, making it, without question, the strongest and most powerful in the world. We already are the strongest. We already are the most powerful. The real question is, how much should we cut military spending? Because we have hundreds of thousands of homeless people, including tens of thousands of homeless veterans in this country, but we spend $1 trillion on military every year. So maybe we should actually cut back on that and use that money to put a roof over some people's heads and eliminate medical debt and give people health care. What are we talking about here? Yeah, that's the problem. The U.S. military is too small. Keep the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. That's actually good, although I would like to see it expanded, not just kept the same. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations. So, in other words, let's double down on fossil fuels, even though the environment is melting right in front of our eyes. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. In other words, let us do our extreme politics and force it on your kids. Nobody else is allowed to do politics. And what this means is any school that's slightly left of Attila the Hun, they're going to be defunded. Keep men out of women's sports. Deport pro-Hamas radicals. And make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. In other words, if you protest in favor of Palestine, if you protest against genocide, if you say, hey, I'm against carpet bombing innocent civilians and children, they want to deport your ass. That's cool. Anyway, what was he saying about free speech in the other part? All of a sudden, that's gone, right? No free speech for people who are pro-Palestine. Secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. In other words, no more mail-in voting. This is a massive voter suppression effort. Unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. Thank you. That's very deep, very intellectual. Let's do good things. Okay. Thank you very much. I missed at least one, by the way, because there's one about like, we need to bring back our manufacturing. Yeah, stop outsourcing. Number 5 I missed. Stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. Guys, under Trump, he outsourced 200,000 manufacturing jobs because his tax bill incentivized outsourcing. We lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under him. Under Biden, for all of his flaws and his brain not working, we brought back 800,000 manufacturing jobs. So it's kind of hilarious and ironic that Trump is running on this because it's like, we have the record and you fucking sucked on it, bro. So anyway, why am I going through all this? Why am I going through all this? I'm going through all this because, again, today we're all MAGA. No, I'm against murder. Murder is bad. Murder is wrong. And also, I'm against the policy agenda of MAGA. And no amount of gaslighting is going to get me to not take that position. So let's stop being silly. Let's stop using like manipulation tactics to try to get people to shut up and fall in line and be civil and use decorum as the entire right-wing agenda is trying to take over the country and fuck us over 47 ways to Sunday. I'm not interested in that. We can all be adults. We can all be adults and we can all keep those two thoughts in our mind. Murder is bad and wrong. And also, sorry, I'm still against your policies, right? Like, for example, Trump is in favor of leave abortion up to the states. Okay, well, that means like half the states are going to have very restrictive abortion bans, including in some states. Even if the woman's life is threatened, they're not going to give her an abortion. Just be bleeding out on the table before they say, okay, do it. Right? It could be, you're going to bleed out on the table. They go, I don't care. You got to let her bleed out before we can do an abortion. Underage people who were raped and they can't have an abortion in these states. He goes, hey, leave it up to the states. It's fine. No, I'm against that. I'm against forcing a 14-year-old to have her rapist baby. It shouldn't be the arbitrary lines around the states that prevent you from addressing that problem, right? But that's Trump's position. No Roe v. Wade, leave it up to the states. I'm against that. Doesn't matter how you try to manipulate me or gaslight me into shutting up and just accepting everything about Trump now. No. You can still disagree with him and say murder is wrong. Wow, crazy. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.